emotions are at the center of our thinking, that people who suffer strokes and lesions that don't allow them to experience emotion are not super smart Mr. Spocks. They're unable to make decisions. Because what emotions do is they assign value to things. They tell us what we want. And if you don't have that, your decision-making landscape is flat, and you actually can't come to a conclusion. Now, I'm a middle-aged guy who loves hanging around the Brookings Institution, so I'm not exactly comfortable talking about emotions. My wife says me writing a book about emotions is like Gandhi writing a book about gluttony. And there's actually a great brain scan story I mentioned in the book, though it's apocryphal to be fair. But they took a bunch of middle-aged men, put them in fMRI machines, scanned their brains, had them watch a horror movie, and then had them describe their feelings toward their wives. And the brains were identical in both activities, so just sheer terror doing both. And so I know how that feels. But the elemental fact is that it is emotion, it is love that forms the brain. There was one experiment, an Austrian experimenter, René Spitz, who came here to the U.S. and studied an orphanage in 1945. And in those days, at least at that place, they decided what they wanted to do to keep babies healthy was to keep them sanitized or sanitary. So they fed them, they gave them great medical care, they did not handle them. And in this orphanage, the mortality rate for babies by age 2 was 37%. And they stopped naming the babies because they were dying at such high rates. And so without that emotion, the brain really is not forming. And so that's just the importance of emotion. And then the third insight is that we're not primarily self-contained individuals. We're social animals, and we emerge out of relationships. We're not individuals who form contracts. We're relationships first, and then the individuals come out of that. And so when we see each other, there's a controversial notion called mirror neurons, which is when we see someone, we reenact in our own mind what we see them doing. And we not only reenact what we see, we reenact the intentions implied by the action. So if I see somebody pick up a glass to drink it, my mind reacts one way. If I see somebody pick up a glass to put it in the dishwasher, it reacts in a different way. And that shows the level of deep interpenetration. And it gives us a sense of the deep levels of communication that are perpetually happening between people through smell, through sight, through a million different channels. One experiment done in Germany, they took a bunch of people, put gauze pads under their arms, taped gauze pads, had some people watch a horror movie, some people watch a comedy, and then they had other research subjects sniff the gauze pads and tell which movie did these people watch. And humans can tell at way above average chance, somehow just by sniffing the gauze pads. And women, by the way, are much better at this than men for some reason. So this is a sign of the deep interpenetration. And so this research, I think, gives us a different story of how life works. I think we're still primarily children of the French Enlightenment, thinking reason is the highest faculty. And I think this research confirms the view of the British or Scottish Enlightenment that reason is weak and our sentiments are strong and often trustworthy.